We stay with those pictures. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in that rousing reception as he's touched down in Tianjin in China for the SCO summit. Gaurav, I want to come back to you because you were also talking about trade and economy between the two nations. One aspect that is being looked at very closely is, of course, India's trade deficit with China that remains alarmingly high. With Prime Minister Modi's visit, the push for greater market access for Indian goods, how do you see that happening?
So far it's actually been in the past, it's almost like, banging your head against that China wall. China doesn't say no, it doesn't say yes either. The deficit is almost $100 billion. $130 billion is what the trade between the two countries are. So India's effort has been to reduce that deficit to increase the exports. Now, when the relationship went south, you also saw China stop the export of magnets, rare earth minerals, fertilizers that were required, tunnel boring machines that are required, and those tunnel boring machines are really required for infrastructure development and India's big infrastructure push. So when the relationship started improving gradually, so fertilizer supplies, they are resuming, rare earth minerals and magnets, their supplies are resuming, tunnel boring machines will once again come into India. But then these were problems that were just created, and a problem has just been found in the last couple of years. The legacy problems that issue, and I'm not talking about the boundary issue, I'm talking about the trade deficit, because that's also from $60 billion trade deficit to 80 to 100. It just keeps increasing, and it's increased more post-COVID. So how does that get addressed? There are many aspects to it which both sides are working on. India is seeking greater access to Chinese markets. There are a lot of regulations here that we're seeking, more transparency. China is quite opaque in many ways. So that opacity, can that be reduced? Can more Indian goods and services be exported to China? What are those areas where India can contribute more? So there are some steps that are being taken when India negotiates, and India is actually trying very hard, especially in this situation. And then this is a situation that China also realizes that India has been able to stand up to American President Donald Trump's bullying tactics when it comes to 25% additional tariffs, and those tariffs, some argue, may go up even further should India not kowtow to America, which India is not doing by all indications. This is an opportunity in an adversity even for India. So does this work out to be an opportunity when it comes to India, China, Russia, the global south looking at newer markets? There's a lot that's at play here. But at this particular meeting, it's at a multilateral level. This meeting is more about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where India is also working big with the Eurasian market. Now, India's engagement, whether with Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan, or Azerbaijan, with Azerbaijan, of course, we saw a relationship go south, Azerbaijan, Pakistan and Turkey during Op Sindoor. But, in that region, India is trying to, make more headway. Very successful with Russia, very successful with Kazakhstan, with Uzbekistan, with Turkmenistan. There are 20 countries that are here right now. So there is some effort at multilateral level. Counter-terrorism is a very important aspect in which the two countries are moving forward, and these two, groupings are moving forward. But then you have a state sponsored of radical Islamist terror, Pakistan, that's a part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So will the countries unite and call out Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror? Because this is a grouping that was actually formed to combat terror in all its forms and manifestations. And India's big effort has been that cross-border terrorism should be highlighted here. So it's a constant battle. Everyone's putting their shoulder to the wheel. Let's see what comes out of it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And in fact, Gaurav, the last point that you made, I want to discuss that with you in greater detail. But before that, let's also tell our viewers the opportunity that you were talking about. And if it turns out the way, how can it be a win-win situation for both India and China? So considering that happens, what are the possibilities? One, of course, both are seeking newer markets to offset their losses. The second possibility, a possible push for greater South-South trade, which both nations are eyeing. The third possibility also could be that China may offer India trade concessions, and that is certainly something that India is looking to solve. The fourth possibility is that India gains leverage in negotiating US deals. Remember, China is equally troubled when it comes to the kind of tariffs that have been levied by the US, and India looking to better those negotiations. And the fifth possibility, India and China to reduce their respective reliance on the US market. So we wait and watch how that happens.